in this particular session, guys, we're going to talk about today how to create up an account, right? What are the different kind of certificates we have in the GCP? Fine, okay. As one of the requirement from you guys that just get an overview about what are the different kind of certificates we have in the GCP, just guidance, and then how to set up a GCP account. It's very simple. It's straight to the point. Fine, and other kind of thing also we are going to discuss as well. Okay. And whenever it comes to particularly the topics, today we are going to talk about something that what is the infrastructure of the GCPs, how it's built. And once we understand that, what we're going to do is that we are going to launch our first VM in today's session. Okay. So particularly, I'm going to show you how to connect to it, how and what's a static IP, what's a machine image, all those kind of things we are going to learn in today's session as well. Right. So today's session, guys, would be very, very interesting. Great. Perfect. So, guys, this is a very short introduction about myself. These are some of the certificates I hold and the number of experience I have more than 5 years into this particular field of cybersecurity and cloud security. And today is day second, and this is the topic, the most important topics that we're going to discuss in today's session as well. The architecture of the GCP, that how actually, guys, that particular GCP infrastructure has been built. Right, once we get up a good idea about it, it's pretty simple. Okay, only two components are there which creates up this particular architecture. So I will be explaining that and where actually GCP has its presence. Then we also talk about what is this machine type, what is an image, particularly in the GCP, that kind of things. We are going to play a little bit about with them as well. And when we talk about image, there's something which is called by the name of custom image. So what is actually a custom image? What's the difference between an image and a custom image? That's also we are going to explore as well and do a little bit of a hands-on thing with it, right? And that is a very important thing. What is playing with a static IP? So those kind of things also in today's session. These are the main topic we are going to cover in today's session as well. Okay, guys, perfect. So let's move ahead with today's session. Great. Okay. Now let's fall first of all, let me tell you about the different kind of certificates we have in place. Then I will be jumping into how to create up a GCP account. Clear? So what are the different kind of certificates in place? Let me open up an official page of the or of the GCP. So this is an official website of the GCP where they have written about the certificates. What are different kind of certificates you hold in place? Okay, you scroll down a little bit and see that, guys, the GCP has divided the certificates into three levels. Before jumping in actually the certificates, they have divided into the three level. First is the foundational certificate where you just get up an idea, okay, that how what's an infrastructure looks like, what are the different kind of services we have in place, how database is there, what are the kind of an encryption systems we have in the AWS. So those kind of things we have in place. Then little, so it's pretty easy. It is for the beginners. I would say the foundational certificate is particularly for the beginners. So foundational certificate is not the name of the certificate, it's the level you have. Okay, three level: foundational certification, associate certifications, and professional certifications. So foundation certification is just for the beginners. Particularly, I would say a manager, you would, you know, like a person who is just managing up a cloud team and he just want to get up an understanding about different kind of resources and just a basic understanding about the infrastructure. That's it. He does not want to just create up any kind of build up a project or anything like that. He's just managing up a team in order to build up a very, share the ideas or do any kind of a thing in place. He just want an overview of the resources of the infrastructure. That's what we do in the foundation certificate. So you scroll down and in the foundation certificates, right, in the foundation level, I would say you only have one single certificate, which is called by the name of Cloud Digital Leader. Okay, let's open it. Let's explore what this Cloud Digital Leader certificate is all about, right? Okay, so this particular certificate, I would say, this certificate is anyone who wish to demonstrate their knowledge of cloud computing basics. That's important. It's not a very high-end certificate. Okay, it's a very basic certificate for someone who is just want to come into this particular field of GCP or the cloud to just get an overview. That's it. Fine. So that's the thing. And for the beginners, I would say, and how Google Cloud products and services can be used to achieve an organizational goal. That's what you. So it's just for cloud computing basics. So that's the thing you have to remember it up. Clear? So in the foundational level, guys, how many certificates we have? Only one certificate by the name of Cloud Digital Leader, right? For a person who just want to have just a basic idea about the infrastructure. Then at the second level, you have associate certifications. right? Okay. So in the associate, it's a little bit tough, I would say, and the complexity increases in this the associate certification. You scroll down, and there also you have only one certificate, which is called by the name of cloud engineer in this second level. So let me just open it up as well. Cloud engineer, what it is, what kind of things you learn into it. Associate cloud engineer, right? So the associate cloud engineer deploy application, monitor operations, and manage enterprise solutions. So in this particular case, what will happen is that you will be creating the infrastructure in place. Fine. That's what the cloud manager does, right? So let's say, for example, I just tell you, let me just give you an example of what the associate cloud engineer does. Let's suppose you have a hospital which has a capacity of 20 patients, fine? Okay. And the 20 patients are a hospital. It's a very small hospital, or you can say it's a very small clinic you have in place where at a time 20 patients can be admitted, and they can be looked after. Fine. So based upon the requirement, the scalability, the infrastructure, the budget, right, all these kind of things, the administrator of the organizations or the hospital comes to you and says to you, you know what, Amit, I want to build up a cloud infrastructure for my respective hospital, and I want to move all my critical resources to the cloud infrastructure in place. Okay. So based upon my requirement of that 20 hospitals or 20 bed in a hospital, right, that's the respective capacity, what I will be doing is that I will be creating up an infrastructure. Okay. Then it will be very low end, I would say, infrastructure. It would not be a very much high end infrastructure where lot of components I will be putting into it, because as more and more component, more and more elements you add into an infrastructure, what happens, guys, is that the cost increases. That's the thing we have to keep in mind. Perfect. So now what will happen in that particular scenario is that, let's suppose a big corporate organization like Netflix comes to you, right? Or Nvidia. Recently, Nvidia and this GCP has a merge, a big, very billion-dollar deal in place. So like this Nvidia or Netflix or any other organization comes to you and just says to you, Amit, you know what? We have a respective problems, and can you please build up a cloud infrastructure? And we have more than 20,000 employees, fine, and we have more than a million users across the globe. So based upon the requirement of your client, now the architecture will change, fine, because now you have to serve up a client. In that particular client, the infrastructure has a global presence. So in that particular case, the infrastructure would be completely different. Fine. It's same like, I would say, a civil engineer. Civil engineer, a person comes to you, right? And he says to you, you know what, I am a very normal middle class person. I want to build up a house, and it has only 4 rooms and all these kind of things. So the civil engineer, based upon his budget, what he do is that he build up an architecture. Fine, that's the thing. Then what happens is that then another person who is a multi-time millionaire, and right, he has a lot of money to spend. He comes to that particular engineer, says that, you know what, I want 20 rooms or 10, 20 rooms in my particular house, 5 toilets, and all this kind of stuff in place. So he has huge budget to invest into. So what will happen is that that particular civil engineer will be building up a complete castle or that mansion for that particular millionaire, right? Same phenomena applies as well. Based upon your respective client, you will be building up the architecture, fine, and that those elements, those components that are used, that are important for building up the architecture, that we learn it up in the associate cloud engineer part, right? Okay. So it talks about deploying application, monitoring its operation, that whether the particular application is running smoothly or not, or is any kind of problem going on with the particular application. Fine, that kind of things. Great. So that is associate cloud engineer. Okay. Then guys, then we have the third level, which is called the professional certifications. Okay. This is much more, I would say, much more difficult certificate to crack into. You should have a very good solid foundation to jump into this particular level of professional certification. Okay, great. See, advanced skill is needed in this. Advanced skills in designing, implementation, and management of the Google Cloud products. Okay. So what are these different kind of certificates we have in place? In this third level of professional certification, guys, you scroll down. What happens is that you have plenty of certificates in place. Okay. One by one, let's explore it up. What those certificates are. First is cloud architecture, right? It's similar to the cloud engineer, but I would say cloud engineer does not go in much in depth. But this cloud architecture, what it does is that cloud professional architecture enable organization to leverage Google Cloud technologies. Fine. Okay, that's the thing. So it builds up an architecture. Fine. And this is, I would say, a big brother of that cloud engineer. Fine. Okay, great. So, say they design, develop, and manage robust, secure, scalable, and highly available and dynamic solution to drive business project. Same thing I was telling you about. Fine. Okay, great. But this is a smaller brother. In this particularly, the resources, the services would be told to you would be just an overview. But let's say, for example, you're serious about understanding about the architecture. You're serious about building up the infrastructure of your employee. Then definitely for sure, first go for cloud engineer, then move to the cloud architecture. Clear? That's the thing. Great. Then you have cloud database engineer. As the name by itself teaches you about how to create up the database, how to maintain the database, how to protect the database, and all those kind of things, right? Right. So it's a database professional with 2 years of Google Cloud experience, right? The professional should be comfortable translating business and technical requirement to scalable and cost-effective database solution. It means short, it teaches you about the database, how to create a database, how to make your database much more resilient so it's not affected by any kind of a cyber attack, how to make it, how to set up a cost optimization. Fine. So it should not be the case that I build up a database for a client which cannot, after a month or two, there is a huge amount of bill gets generated, and then my client says, Amit, I am not in a shape, or I cannot afford that much of a bill every month. So that is also the case, right? That you have to listen to the client as well, how much of a budget he have in place. Same like in infrastructure. In this particular case, same goes with the database as well. How much the client requirement is, how much of request he wants that particular server or the database to handle. Definitely for sure, if a database, let's say for example, you're creating it up and it can handle 20 user at a time, definitely for sure it would be cheaper as compared to a database which can handle 5,000 user at a time. Then definitely for sure there is something which is called by the name of DOS attack. So what happens is that the characteristic property of a DOS attack is that, guys. Okay, just give me a minute. Let me just make it clear for you. Right? Why I'm talking about DOS attack? Because whenever you are dealing with this database part and place, definitely for sure DOS attack would be the case, and you have to be prepared for that. Okay, great. So what happens is that, let's say for example, you have a respective server. Fine, this is your respective server. Absolutely. By huge traffic connection and resource gets utilized. Correct, Ganesh, right? So let's say, for example, what happens is that this is an hacker, and what happens is that the hacker would keep on sending up malicious traffic, right, to the server. Malicious. Thousands and thousands and thousands of requests will be sent to this respective server. And what will happen in that particular case, guys? The request at a time would be so much that the server would not be able to afford, or I would say not the server or even the database as well, would not be able to handle so much of a traffic, and it will start to either lose the clients, or what will happen is that it will start collapsing, or it will start creating up a problem. Okay, so that's the thing that's called the DOS attack, denial of service attack, and so the server gets so overwhelmed that either it shut down. Fine, that's the case. That's called the DOS attack. There are multiple variations of the DOS attacks. We are not going to that particular part. That's the thing. So this is a very short overview of what actually, guys, is a DOS attack you have in place. Fine. Okay. Now, whenever you're dealing with a database, you have to think about what are the things, what are the solutions in place to protect my infrastructure from a DOS attack. What should I do? Which kind of services, which kind of protocol, which kind of service should I use to protect my particular organization or my database or my server from a DOS attack? Those kind of things you are going to learn this. And another thing you have in place is scalability. Let's say, for example, guys, let's assume right now you want only one database. Fine. But let's say there is a sale going on. Let's, this e-commerce platform, every month they have some sort of a sale. So let's say a festival season about to be there. So what you need to do is that this particular server or this particular database is able to handle normal traffic in our day-to-day life. Perfect. But let's say there is a festival season going on. So you need additional two other database, which is temporary. This is T1 temporary one database, and this is T2 temporary two database, which for a week you want, and after a week you will be getting rid of them. You will be removing this, and you will be removing this, and this would be one, this will be left behind. Okay, that's the case. So you're going to learn about that as well, that scalability part. How should I scale it automatically? Because definitely for sure, if you do it scalability manually, it would be a nightmare. What I want is that as the number of users keep on increasing it up, the database keeps on creating as well in the backend. And another thing you have to do is that you have to make it cost effective, that I mentioned to you, right? It should not be the case that for a small client of only 20 employees, you are generating up a bill of thousands of dollars. That doesn't make up a sense. Okay, that does not justify their respective budget. Okay, so you have to make up a cost effective database in place. Perfect. So this is called professional cloud database engineer. Perfect. Okay. Another one, you have the cloud developer. In this particular developer, you have to have, it's a combination of GCP, the cloud, as well as the coding. So what happens in this particular case is that cloud professional developers has profession at least one general purpose programming language with instrument their code to produce metric logs and traces. In short, what you're going to do is that you are going to use, or you are going to develop some kind of a software or an application over the cloud environment, or you're going to host it over. So for being a professional cloud developer, you have to have two things. First thing is that have a good understanding of the cloud environment, particularly the GCP. And another thing is that you should have a very good understanding about the programming. Any program, Python, Java, C++, these very good programming languages we have in place, use any of them. So you are hosting, creating up the application not on a local system, but over a cloud environment. Fine. That's the thing we have in the professional cloud developer part. Okay. Then you have the data engineer, guys. So in the data engineer part, what's the catch here is that in this particular data engineer, as you move ahead into it, let's go into it. So it's professional data engineer. So what happens in this particular case is that data engineer creates and manages robust data processing systems. Okay, this includes ability to design, build, deploy, monitor, and maintain the secure data processing workload. So it means that how you're processing that particular data, is that particular processing stage or the particular I would say that a process is secure or not. Fine. Okay. And how you're designing it up, building it up, deploying it, those kind of things. Fine. So data engineer, what it does is that it collects your piece of information, analyze it up, then arrange it. Okay. So that someone else inside your respective organization can fetch that particular data. Let's say for example, what happens is that particularly in India there is a census going on. Okay, that there is census that comes up every 10 years, or this kind of same things happens in every country in place. What's the motive of that? What the census does is that they collect a huge amount of data, but what they do, they keep it in an organized manner. Like, first of all, what is your name? Then what is your respective gender, your age criteria? Do you dealing with any kind of a disease like diabetes, heart problem, blood pressure, uh, any kind of a kidney damage, any kind of a thing, okay? Or what's your, future goal? All these kind of things you have in place in that particular, I would say, a survey in place. And what's the motive of that particular survey? So that the government get up a better understanding that okay, males in the category of 50 to 60 years are just facing up some kind of a health issues in place, particularly in their liver or something like that. Then they can create up a policy. Like same way, females, particularly at the age group of 40 to 50, are facing up back pains, a lot of these things. So then the government and the corporate world, they can come together to create up a system so that the problem can be resolved. Same what happens that the data engineer does. Data engineer collects the huge amount of data, your location, right, which kind of device you're using it up, and then based upon that, what it does is that it gathers, it kind of connects everything. And once it has connected that okay, Amit is present in this particular geographical location, fine, and on a regular basis he visits this particular website, he's interested into it, and based upon those kind of analytics data that has been collected, what will happen is that ads will be bombarded upon me. Fine. Let's say, for example, I want to look after and purchasing up a new car in place. What will happen is that suddenly I will say that over my YouTube, Facebook, everywhere, over the Instagram, over the social media, suddenly I would be getting up this, car, different car models on this advertisement in place. How? Because of data engineers. They're collecting my data, my geographical location, my this, my that, right? And then providing me, then bombarding me with my respective advertisement. That's correct. Then we have the cloud DevOps engineer. So in this, it's a very, very emerging market, I would say. There's DevOps teams. Okay. So it's a thing which is called, I would say, which is called CI/CD pipeline. continuous integration, continuous deployment. It's a production environment. It's a pipeline you set it up. Okay, that what you do is that it starts from. I'll just give you a very small overview about what is it is. It starts with creation of a code, right? What happens is that then multiple people codes combined together, fine, in a centralized repository which is called the Git, and then it moves ahead to the production environment, and then the version is being launched. This is called CI/CD pipeline. I'm just telling you just an overview of it, fine. So this is generally used in the production environment we have in place. That creation of a code, looking after that whether it has any sort of a bug or not, and then after then releasing it up in the market. Fine, that kind of things we have in the development part. So it's a very very interesting thing. So what happens in this particular case is that we are going to create a particular pipeline which is called CI/CD pipeline in the GCP part. That's what we learn in the professional cloud DevOps engineer. Okay, great. Then you have the security engineer. Security engineer what looks after that architecture, guys. Yes, we have created, right? We talked about cloud architecture. So the architecture that you have created up in the professional cloud security engineer, what happens is that we talk about how to protect that particular infrastructure from the hackers, which kind of encryption to use. Like tomorrow we will be talking about the encryption part, which kind of encryption to use, what to do this, how to how to enable IAM, how to create up a policy in place. Those kind of things we talk about in cloud security engineer. Great. Then you have cloud engineer, network engineer. In this particular, what happens is that you create up a network infrastructure, right? You're creating up a subnet, routers, configuring up the routers, creating up a firewalls, all these kind of things. You're doing it up, okay? And then you have the workplace administrator. This is quite interesting as well. So let me click into it. Professional Google Workspace Administrator. So what this particular workspace administrator does is that Google Workspace Administrator uses tool, programming language, and APIs to automate the workflows. What it does is that it automates your workflow, educates the users, and increase operation efficiency. So generally what it does, it helps you in automating your respective process. And once you automate a respective process, what happens is that in that respective case, you are making your life much more easier. Your organization cost drastically decreases up when they use up an automation process. Okay, that's what is done by the Google Workstation Administrator. And then when it comes to the machine learning engineer, this what it does is that it uses up the machine learning services we have in these particular GCP to perform or do the respective task in place. Right? So guys, these were the certificates we have in place. Okay, different. And first of all, remember we have three levels: foundational, associate, and the professional. And these are the certificates below them. Correct? Okay, great. So these are the certificates we hold in place. Now let's talk about, guys, creation of the account. So remember, whenever you're creating up an account in the GCP, first of all you need two things. One, you need up a credit card or a debit card in place. Fine. You need to provide us, I would say, personal information. Fine. So what you need to do is that you need to go to cloud.google.com. You click into it. Okay. And then what you do is that you click into start free. Let's see. Okay. This is what you get it up. Fine. You, Amit Pandey, and this is your email address. You get it. You specify it up, agree and continue. It's pretty simple. Fine. Okay. Now, simple payment information it's talking you about. Amit Pandey as an individual, and that's kind you have to provide your, card information in place. Clear? That kind of things. Okay. Great. And then you click into start free and you are good to go. Simple as that. Fine. Okay. That's great. And another thing, guys, as you can see it up, it's written here 300 credit free. Put Google Cloud to work for 300 credit free to spend over the 90 days. Once you click into it, you get two options: individual level or organization level. I would say at your particular capacity, when you're creating it or at your own capacity, create it up at an individual level. Fine. Okay. And the payment part, use Visa or the Mastercard in place. But remember to enable international transaction in your respective card in place. Fine, that's the case. So $300 of credit you get free, but remember it's not for everywhere. You get it for 90 days. Okay, different cloud environment has different kind of, I would say, uh, these schemes in place. AWS has something which is called by the name of free tier eligible, which kind of renews every month. But in this GCP, what they have done is that they have given you $3,000 of credit, fine. And then what happens is that it is there for 90 days. So 90 days, how much? Approx 3 months. Okay, so you have 3 months to use up that particular $300 of a credit. So what actually that means? Let me just explain you even further what actually those particular credit means. Let's say, for example, guys, there is a server. Okay, you are running it in a specific region. What is a region? I will be coming to that when we talk about the infrastructure in the GCP. So this is, I would say, a region I have in place. Sorry, my bad, not region. This is an infrastructure I have in place. Okay, great. Now, what will happen in this particular case is that this is a server, this is an instance, this is a VM running it up. Let's say this particular VM was running for 7 days, and the cost is there is going to be $10. So, guys, what do you think? Whenever you're starting it up, are you going to pay for this $10 after a month? I'm running this particular for 7 days, $10 bill is generated. After the month, and will I will pay $10? No, because you have a limit of $300, guys. So what will happen is that for 90 days. So what will happen? This $10 will be deducted from your what? $300, and you get how much? 290, right? You get $290 still left. Again, let's say for example, again the server was running for 10 days. It was costing you, let's say for example, now $20. So again, this $20 would be deducted from your 290. That's the thing. Till the time the 90-day is over, or that particular $300 limit has been crossed. Okay. Now the moment, let's say for example, your bill is, now you have utilized this $300, and now it's $301. So guys, tell me, when your bill is $301, will you pay for it? Yes. How much? $1. Okay, that's it. So $300 of credit you guys receive for 90 days. After 90 days, it's gone. Clear? That's what you do. That's how you create up your account in place. I'm just again just explaining you guys how to do it up. Just wait a minute. Uh, this is the platform you need to go to. I'm just pasting up in the session as well. Now, before jumping into it, guys, there's another some concepts we need to learn about it, how things work. So, guys, now we are going to talk about something which is called by the name of virtualization. Fine. So, because this particular virtualization is a kind of a technology which we are using it up in the client environment, that's why I am discussing this particular virtualization with you guys. So, what is this particular virtualization, guys? Any idea what is actually a virtualization? Which creates the backbone of the entire cloud environment, whether it's a GCP, whether it's AWS, whether it's a job, whether it's Oracle, whether it's Alibaba, irrespective of the cloud provider, what happens is that this virtualization creates the backbone of it. So guys, virtualization is a technology, that can be used to create virtual machines. Fine. Okay. So let me tell you why we need a virtualization. Before the virtualization, the problem was that, let's say for example, I am a trainer and I am teaching up multiple courses, right? Cloud security, cloud pen testing, offensive, defensive courses, a plenty of them. So what that particular stage, I need multiple operating system. Let's assume a scenario where I am teaching up something which is called by the name of CS, Certified Ethical Hacking, where we teach how to hack into a system. So in that particular say case, I need three operating system. Okay. So one could be Kali Linux, another would be, I would say, Ubuntu, and another one would be your Windows 10 in place. Fine. So what was happening before virtualization was that one PC, okay, equal to one operating system. Inside one PC, you can have only one operating system. So, guys, tell me what is the problem if I'm having three PCs with three different operating system into it? See, it fulfills my particular job role, right? I want to create, or for my respective student, I want to teach them how to perform a vulnerability assessment, how to hack into a system, all these kind of things. I can do it with three systems with different operating system it holds. Fine. Management, can I say management? Managing three different laptops or three different machines. Let's say, for example, if I want to go to the on-site or to a new university to teach, imagine a scenario. that for the airport I would have to take it up all these in a luggage. I have to take three different laptops, right? And at the time of the custom, I have to open my bag and then submit that particular three laptops, right? It would be a very hectic job for me. Okay, imagine a scenario if I need to have five operating systems for a particular practical in place. That will be a problematic thing. Fine. So that's the problem we have. So before virtualization, one PC, one operating system. So that was a big problem. If my job requirement or the situation is that I need to play with multiple operating system. I need to use Kali Linux, Parrot, Windows 10, XP, Ubuntu, all these kind of things in place. It would be very, very hectic job for me. Fine. Okay. So now what will happen is that this is the story of your respective virtual. This was the story before virtualization. Now the catch here is that we came up with a technology which is called by the name of virtualization. So what the virtualization does? Virtualization say one PC, many OS, multiple OS you can say, inside one single PC only. Fine. That is called the virtualization. That inside only one system, one physical system, you can have multiple operating systems. So there are multiple softwares present in the market through which guys we achieve the virtualization. And what are those software called? There are specific set of software which are present in the market through which we can achieve virtualization. VLC media player is a software or a category of software. VLC media player is itself is a specific software. Fine. If I just say, give me a name of a media, correct? It's a software. We use it up. We can watch the movies. We can access the stuff. All these kind of things you can do it up. Okay. We can play the songs and all this kind of stuff in place. Right. But what if I, let's say for example, tell me guys, example of different kind of media players. So different kind of media players we have in place. Like one is the VLC, then you have one for the Windows, then there is a WIMP you have in place. So this is a kind of category of different kind of media players. Different softwares comes under this particular category of media player. That same category we also have it up in this particular virtualization, which is called by the name of hypervisor. So hypervisor is an umbrella term, and inside it comes your VMware workstation, okay, VirtualBox, and plenty others. So that category is called hypervisor. Fine. Okay. So that the VMware you're telling me about, it's for software which is comes under category of hypervisor. Using this particular software, we are able to achieve something which is called by the name of virtualization. Okay. Let me just give you an example of it, which I generally for the session when I'm teaching of the pen testing or CS or offensive or defensive courses in place. There is this particular software which we use, which is called by the name of VMware Workstation Pro. Let me open it up to just let show you that how actually things really looks like. See, this is it. Using this particular software, which is called a hypervisor, which is actually a VMware workstation, you can see it up. I'm hosting four different operating systems: an Android, a Parrot, Linux, and Windows XP. Fine. So see, one PC, multiple operating system. Fine. That is called the virtualization, and the software through which we are able to achieve the virtualization, guys, that's called the hypervisor. And guys, which you have given the respective example, VMware. Okay, so let's talk about this hypervisor, because remember, in the back end, whether it's any kind of a provider you have in place, whether it's AWS, whether it's Azure, whether it's GCP, any provider you have in place, in the back end, guys, they are using this virtualization only. Fine. So the virtualization is the backbone of this cloud environment. Fine. So now we have something which is called, guys, by the name of hypervisor. Hypervisor is what, guys? Is it a name of the software or a category of software? Multiple different software comes under it. A category of software. Very good. So in this hypervisor, we have two type of hypervisor. Type 1 hypervisor and type 2 hypervisor. Okay. Type 1 hypervisor is generally which is used in the organization, I would say. Okay, before jumping into the type 1 hypervisor, let me explain you type 2 hypervisor. Fine. Okay, what is this particular type 2 hypervisor? Type 2 hypervisor is generally which we use in our normal system, in a normal laptop. Fine. This is how the architecture of this particular type 2 hypervisor is, guys. First thing, first layer you have is of a hardware. Okay. Then like it could be like i5 you have in place, clear. Uh, i5 7th generation, 16 GB of RAM, 1 terabyte of SSD, all these kind of things you have in place. Then you, after this particular hardware part, what you have in place, you have the operating system, and after that you have the respective hypervisor, which is could be in your particular case. You have given the example of VMware, right? Which I was also showing you, VMware Workstation, VirtualBox, that kind of things. And above it, you are holding up the operating system, multiple different kind of an operating system. You are holding it up. Fine. That's a characteristic of a type 2 hypervisor. First, you have a hardware. Before it, over it up, you have installed the operating system, and over it, you have installed up the hypervisor. And over that particular hypervisor, you have multiple operating system. Like I have shown you this thing. See, okay, you can compare it up, right? Multiple guest operating system you have in place. See, these are those operating systems. And when it comes to that particular hypervisor, this is the particular software by itself. And this particular operating system, guest one, is XP, Kali, Parrot, Android, right? They are actually in the backend in itself is using up this hardware, okay, common source. That is how things are there in the hypervisor. Then, okay, guys, so can you tell me what's the problem in type 2 hypervisor? See, first of all, you are saying that shared operating system may lead to a risk. First of all, what happens in that particular case is that they are not hosted directly over the operating system. What happens is that over the operating system, they have an hypervisor, this software which creates up an isolated environment. And inside that particular isolated environment, you can have Kali, you can have your I would say Ubuntu, you can have your Android, fine. So the virus would not be able to jump from the isolation to the outside world, and it would not be able to jump from the outside world to the inside. Okay. So this hypervisor create a what? It create an isolated environment. Okay. That's the thing. But there could be a problem. The problem can be that the virus can jump from this operating system to this, okay, or it can jump from this operating system Kali Linux to the host operating system. Fine, they can able to breach this hypervisor isolation layer. That is called VM escaping. Clear? Okay, great. That could be a case here. Perfect. Another one, another I would say a very common problem in this type 2 hypervisor, it's the operating system. Fine. So I would say multiple, you can, a multiple different a ransomware attack, you can perform it up over this operating system. So let's say, for example, there could a ransomware attack or any kind of a virus attack. So this operating system collapse. So guys, tell me, if this operating system collapse, what would happen in that particular case? Will the hypervisor still work? The hypervisor would also start to fail. If the hypervisor fail, will there will be a VM? No. So you see that the this operating system is a loophole. It's a problem here. Fine, it can be easily be hacked into, it can be compromised, and once it is compromised, when it start to degrade, start to fail, what happened in that particular case is that other elements, the hypervisor, the VMs, the data present in the VMs, they all is lost. So that's kind of a problem we have in this particular case. Okay, great. That is called the type 2 hypervisor. So that's the reason in normal day-to-day life we use this type 2 hypervisor. Fine. Okay. Now when it comes to the organization, particularly real environment, right? Enterprise level, I would say, we use type 1 hypervisor. There is no operating system into it, right? Because the operating system, guys, was creating up a mess for us. As I mentioned to you, it was creating up a attack surface for the attackers, right? It was invitation for the attackers. It was a loophole for us. Fine. So what we did is in the type 1 hypervisor or bare metal hypervisor is that we eliminated the operating system. We completely eliminated the operating system, and now we have the hardware. Above the hardware, we have installed the hypervisor, and above it, the VMs are running it up, which is a normal same architecture. Okay. Why I told you that I cannot show you the example of one of the best example is Hyper V, okay, of this type 1 hypervisor. Uh, that uh, one more thing is that why I cannot show you an example of type 1 hypervisor. Right now, just with a VMware workstation, I just shown you an example of type 2 hypervisor. Okay. But why cannot show you an example of type 1 hypervisor in place? Because for the type 1 hypervisor, guys, you need to have special kinds of softwares in place. Okay, so I would say, sorry, special kind of an hardware. A hardware which is created and configured in a such a way, right? So it is created in a such a way that there is no need of an operating system directly over that particular piece of an hardware. You are installing the hypervisor, and then same thing inside the hypervisor, you will be having a different kind of an operating systems into it. Fine. That's the thing. This is called the type 1 hypervisor you have in this particular place. Clear? Perfect. Great. Another big and a very great property of this type 1 hypervisor is that it lets you move. Okay, one what can also happen is that someone can ask me that, Amit, you know what, in type 2 hypervisor you told me that operating system can fail, but the hardware can also fail as well. Fine. Okay. So in type 1 hypervisor, what happens if the hardware starts to fail? If the hardware starts to fail, what is I can do is that I can grab the operating system as well as the hypervisor in a running state and move and transport them to over a healthy hardware, right? That's the biggest benefit we have in type 1 hypervisor. When we see that the hardware starts to fill it up, I can move the hypervisor. I can move up the hypervisor in a running state. I does not need to stop a server. I does not need to stop any VM. In a running state, I can move them from one failing hardware to another healthy hardware in place. In that particular stage, protect my data. Okay, that's the catch. That is called the type 1 hypervisor. So it is first of all pretty complicated, and definitely this type 1 hypervisor is the one which is used in the enterprise level. More specifically, I would say, if any one of you have any sort of an idea or exposure of the data centers, definitely for sure in the data centers they use it up, this type 1 hypervisor, which need up a special kind of an hardware configuration to run up the hypervisor over it up. Okay, so now let's talk about this architecture of the GCP. Before that, let me just show you the dashboard of the GCP. Okay, then I will be coming to this particular architecture, but let me just wait a minute. Where it is. Okay, this is how, guys, the dashboard really looks like. Okay, this is how it is. See, right now my project is going on. My project, you can create another project in place. So this is, I'm creating it up, and this is how the dashboard really looks like. You click into it and see you had the billing part. Fine, you have the IAM, and you can see that multiple times. On the left hand side, first of all, when you are in the particular this, you click into the navigation menu, you can see one more thing, that on the left hand side you have multiple options. You have marketplace, you have Vertex AI, you have compute engine, you have Kubernetes engine, cloud storage, BigQuery, very famous one, VPC network. And when I'm hovering my particular uh, cursor over this VPC network, you can see now in the right hand side multiple other options are there, IP addresses, all this kind of thing, right? So they, what they have done is that they have categorized this thing. And the IAM, what you can do, when I take my particular cursor to the IAM admin, then inside the IAM admin I can perform identity and organization, policy troubleshooter, policy analyzer, right? All these kind of things I can able to do it up. We will be playing with this in today's session up with compute engine, right? Which can do the complex calculation and give us the respective result. Fine. Reservation, TPC, machine image we talked about, right? That's going to discuss in today's session. Okay. VM instance, which we'll be creating it up as well. Right. So this is how the architecture really looks like. But before proceeding ahead with this particular hands-on thing, you need to have a good understanding, guys, about two things, which is architecture of the GCP. So there are two building blocks you have for the, I would say, for the GCP. One is the region, okay. Another is the availability zone. Fine. Okay. Region means a physical place where that particular cloud provider, or in this case the GCP, has a presence. So let's say, for example, in this particular map, I will be providing you a much more better map as well. But let's stick with that for initially. You can see in India they have only one place. In India they have in present in Mumbai region. Fine. Okay, in United States you can see they have present in multiple regions. So a region means that they are physically present there. In India, if I go to the Mumbai somewhere, they are not going to reveal their respective location where exactly they will be present in the Mumbai. But if I just go back, track down in Mumbai, GCP has a physical presence. They will be having a physical on premises. They have a big data centers. They have spent a millions of dollars. Okay, they have that barbed wires, security cameras, all these things in place. Right, a complete office would be there. They have a physical presence. Definitely, they do not reveal it up. Same case with the Sydney as well. I know that somewhere in Sydney, in Australia, GCP has a presence. They have a big office in place. A big building would be there where 24 by 7 data centers would be running it up. But they will not be telling me where exactly in the Sydney, right? Due to the security reasons in place. So that is what the region means. Region means that specific geographical location where actually the cloud provider is physically present. So whenever you see region, it means these each dot represent a location where GCP is actually present. Okay, like it's present actually in Hong Kong. Actually present means our actual setup is there. There could be a buildings, employed working, data centers running 24 by 7, AC is working, right? Sucking up the hot air or the or just controlling up the environment of that particular data centers and all this kind of stuff in place, right? Seoul, you have Osaka in Tokyo, in Japan they have two places, right? Present two places in Tokyo and Osaka, those kind of things. Fine. So this is a region, and inside the region, what they do is that inside a region, let's say for example, this is the Mumbai region. Inside a region, they have different availability zone. One availability zone, another availability zone. Okay, and inside this availability zone, guys, you have the servers running. Okay, clear? That's the architecture of the GCP. I have a particular very good diagram for, I would say, uh, website for that. This is it. Okay, I'm just pasting up in the chat box. If anyone wants to visit up, he can surely does. Okay. So cloud location. See, Google Cloud has added new region 2020-14. These Germany, Qatar, and all these places they have added up. Okay. So 40 regions they have presented up and more than 200 countries. Fine. You scroll down and see that this is the particular network. Now each dot. Okay, okay. Now in India also they have present in Delhi as well. So in Delhi somewhere in India, sorry, in Delhi particularly, they have a particularly a setup of buildings, right, where data centers are running at 24 by 7. Same where in Taiwan, with Osaka, with Seoul, with Tokyo, right, Sydney, Melbourne, and all the different, each dot represent a specific setup, a building. You can imagine it, right? Each dot represent a physical building in place. So when I say that I am deploying up a server in Mumbai, what happens is that in Mumbai servers are running it up, and then that particular one of the server in the Mumbai, what happens is that my VM has been created. If now, let's say for example, guys, if I say it up that I want to deploy up a server or a VM in, let's say for example, North Virginia. Fine. What I will happens is that in North Virginia, in United States, there would be multiple physical servers in place, and in one of them, a VM for Amit would be created up. A server would be created up, which my client could be using it up to access the content. It would be able to talk to my someone else, right? Those kind of things. What the idea? That's the thing we have in place. Okay, or let's say for example I want to host up a database in North Virginia. What will happen in North Virginia in United States? A database would be created up, right? A virtual database would be created up in the servers in place. Fine, where I will be able to put my particular piece of information. So from India, my data would be stored in North Virginia here. Fine, and after that I can fetch it up as well, which is not present if you compare it to the Google Drive. In Google Drive, guys, this kind of a capacity you does not get it up at all. Clear? That's kind of things you have in place. Okay, great. So this is we have in place. So see, current region with three zones. So each region has a breakdown, which is they have three at least availability zone in place. And actually inside, let's say for example, this is the Delhi, I would say, Delhi region. Inside it, you will be having three availability zone. One, two, three. Okay. I would name it A, B, and C. Three availability zones you have in place. So when I deploy a server, the server is actually deployed in any of the availability zone, A, B, or C. And remember, these availability zone, guys, are, or particularly we call it the zone, they are isolated one from each other. So let's say, for example, if this availability zone A is infected or by attacked by ransomware attack, it will not affect B or C. Fine, that's the catch. Another very important thing is that you have to keep in mind is that multiple, uh, or I would say three, one availability zone which contains servers running inside it, another availability zone you have it which is another server which is S2 running inside it, and another I would say availability zone which has S3 server running inside it. They combine together to form up something which is called by the name of a region. This is how the architecture of this particular thing is. Each dot, remember, represent a physical location. In India, it's in Delhi and Mumbai. In Tel Aviv, it's present there. It's Paris, it's present there. In Finland, Netherlands, okay, Salt Lake City, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Mexico. Okay. So each triangle represent a future region where they are working it up. The work is in progress, and in the coming days they will be, you know, launching it up. So Mexico, they are working into it. Is there any other region where they are working into it? No. Great. Fine. Okay. Perfect. So this is how the global presence you have in this particular of the GCP. Fine. Okay. Product available by location. This is also important. Always remember thing is, guys, this, let's say for example, a service which is present in India would cannot be, I would say it's not always the case, but sometimes this is the scenario where a service which is present in India in both Mumbai and Delhi region would not be present in North Virginia in the United States. Or let's say for example a service or a data center or any kind of a functionality present in North Virginia would not be present in Delhi or Mumbai. So you should also remember it up that which service is available in which respective region, right? It's very rare, but it's a reality. So I will be showing you it up because this is an official website we have of this particular GCP. So product available by location, by region, it means by location means by region. Okay. So see, um, if I just must minimize it a little bit, okay. So just to make it much more easy for you. So all these are presented. Here is the catch. See, Google Cloud VMware Engine. This particular product, this service is not present in Oregon, in which is called by the name of US East 1. US East 1 means it is its region code. Fine. Uh, Shelby, it's multiple regions are there. I would say not just data protection, multiple regions. See, Oregon and Los Angeles both are part of United States, right? But in Oregon, the Google Cloud VMware engine is not present, the service is not present. But when you move to the Los Angeles, it's present there. Fine. Salt Lake City, which is also part of the United States, it's not present there. So that's the case. Some services are present in some regions, like in this particular case, somewhere it's not. Let me just make it much more example, like I would say Asia Pacific. Let's stick to it. See, okay, let's see. In this case, App Engine. App Engine is not present in Delhi. If you go to the Delhi region, it's not present there. But if you go to the Singapore, it's present there. In Mumbai, it's present there. Even if Mumbai and Delhi are part of the same country, right? Delhi, India, right? But still, you can say that, and same rule applies as well. Fine. But still see, App Engine is present in Mumbai region, but in Delhi, I would say it is about to come in coming days. Fine. But right now, it's not available at all. Fine. So you should be aware about it, because if your client comes to you and says to you, you know what, I want to deploy up a server or this kind of a storage device in the France region. So first of all, you should be aware about which kind of service you will be using it up to fulfill the requirement of your client. Then go and look it up in the France. Is it possible there or not? Then if it is not present, then talk to your client openly that okay, you know what, this particular service is not present up. We can choose any other region in place. Fine. So if let's say for example in my case, let me tell you a real life scenario which I have came across and how you should also resolve it up as well. In this particular case, see, Delhi and Mumbai are part of India only, right? They are the component of India. Let's say my client comes to me and says to me, Amit, you know what? I want to deploy up a server in Delhi, or I want to create up a database in the Delhi. But see, or using up some app engine, so this particular service I want to use it up. Okay, that's a requirement of the client. But in the Delhi, see, it's not present there. So what I will suggest to the client is that I will say, so ma'am, that this particular service that you're looking for, it's not present in India. So what we can do is that we can go and look for the nearest region where this particular service is present. So guys, which is that particular nearest region where this particular service is present? Mumbai, right? So I would say Mumbai is present there, fine. And what I will do is that I will be deploying up a database or a service in the Mumbai. Or let's say, for example, it's not present in the Mumbai. What happens? The closest you have is Singapore and Jakarta. Fine. There I will be deploying it up. Fine. So that there is very less latency issue my client faces up as well. So that is also you have to keep in mind. Fine. So as you can see, some of the services are not present and some of them are present. Fine. AWS has kind of categorized it up. See, developer tools. These are the different kind of services for the development, identity and security, cloud key management service (KMS). We're going to talk about tomorrow. It's present in Delhi. It's present in Mumbai. Those kind of things. You have EKM. You have HSM, hardware secure module, very important service when it's come to the cloud part, right? It's present in both the cases. So it has kind of see healthcare and life cycle, API management, integration of the services. So they have what they have done is that they have segmented the services, they have categorized the services, and then they are telling it up in which specific region it's present there or not. Fine. That's the catch. So let's say, for example, you want to go to the African countries, right? So in this particular African country, only one region they are present right now, and where this particular service is present there or not. So in there, you see net app volume is not present there, right? Those kind of things. So you can easily get it up. You scroll down a little bit, and yeah, and these are the different kind of certificates that we have in place. We help keep your data safe and secure. Okay, so definitely for sure in the time of the cloud, you are putting up your infrastructure, your data sensitive piece of an information over the infrastructure. And trust me, guys, that could be a very hectic job for some of you. Okay, because there should be some sort of a trust. And how would you build up a trust? Okay, let's say for example, my manager or my client says to you, Amit, from tomorrow onwards, we are going to the GCP. We are putting our 90% of the infrastructure or the data into the GCP. Now, my question is, I ask them from security point of view, you know what? Um, that what is the guarantee, what's the surety that the GCP would be able to protect my particular piece of an information, my particular piece of a data? What about that? So these are the certificate. ISO 27001 you have in place, right? ISO 27017 you have in place. ISO 27018 you have in place. So these are the different kind of compliance. This is kind of certificates, audits they have gone through, which shows them they are up to the mark. Fine, they are fulfilling. They are, they are meeting all the compliance and the standards for data safety, privacy, security in place. They are using good encryption in place. All this kind of things. So these kind of compliance certificates that these cloud providers receive, definitely client get in that particular case a good um, understanding as well as a trust is built upon that, because I get to know that okay, this particular cloud platform is ISO 27001 certified, right? It means there would be a group of auditors which has looked at whether this particular Google Cloud is fulfilling all the criteria benchmark that I mentioned in ISO 27001 in place, and then they have provided up this particular certificate to this cloud vendor. So this is very very important that you have to look it for sure. Fine, that any kind of a cloud provider your organization move to, whether it's AWS, Azure, GCP, or any other XYZ company in place, you have to look for their compliance, that standards, right? Okay, those kind of things. Great, perfect. So guys, this was an overview about, I would say, the infrastructure we have in place about the GCP. There we have something which is called the machine type. Okay. So what this particular machine type is, we will be talking about it. Machine type nothing means, it means your hardware configuration. So now guys, we are doing up a hands-on practical. In this particular hands-on practical, what I will be doing is that I will be creating up a VM for you. Okay, a virtual machine we are going to create it up. Perfect. Just give me a minute, and there in that particular part by itself, as we move ahead, we will do the configuration. I will be telling you up that what this particular machine type is. Machine type in short, remember, it's hardware configuration. So this is what this is hardware configuration in the terms of GCP, guys. We call them machine type. That's it. So it means that 1 TB of ST, 8 GB of RAM, one i7, right? quad core processor of is it machine type, right? If you go by the AWS cloud provider, they have a fancy name for that, which is called instance type. So different cloud provider has given up different names. In the GCP, when we're talking about the GCP, right? Here the name they have given it up is by the name of machine type. Machine type means hardware configuration. Okay, great. So now let's get up a server. Writing server. Just give me a minute. Let me just open up it. Okay, perfect. Here we are. I will be going to this particular dashboard here. I will be going to the dash. Okay, wait a minute. I will first of all, before running it per server, I need to go to something which is called compute engine. Fine. Either I this way, compute engine and the VM instance, or what I do is that I go it up, and in this particular case, I just type it up here, compute engine. See? Okay, wait a minute. Let's make it a little bit smaller. So this is also present here. Okay, either you go it another way, compute, say compute engine. Okay, let's click into it. Okay, so here you can see that, guys. So in this particular compute engine, we deploy up a server. So can you guys see any kind of a server there? Is there any server? No, right? Absolutely, there's no server right now here. Whenever you, in your particular case, will be going the first time to this compute engine, you will be getting up some different kind of a pop-up, and there you have to click into yes. Once you do it up, what happens in that particular case is that it will take a little bit of a time to set up this compute engine service. Fine, only first single time. After that, it will be back to normal. Okay, so I need to create up a server. What I will be doing is that here you get an option, create an instance. I click into create instance. What is an instance, guys? Instance means server. You can note it down somewhere if you want. Like machine type means hardware configuration, instance means servers or the VMs. So I click into create an instance. Okay. Now, what should be the name of the server? Let me just give it up a random name. Okay. I would say one. Fine. Okay. But what generally in the session by itself I do is that irrespective of any cloud provider I'm teaching it up, I just give random name one, two, three, Amit, session, whatever it is. But in a live environment, in your respective live environment, guys, never do this particular mistake. Okay. There are because what will happen is that at the end of the day, if you keep on giving up the random number, after 5 days you will forget that. To be very frank with you, even after 5 days, I will forget that what this particular one server is all about. Okay, and you completely lost what was the reason why you created the server, which client it is serving. Okay, so you are completely lost. And in your respective live environment, you are deploying hundred of servers in a day. So there, in your respective organization, you should have a good policies in place to write the name. Correct? So, but just for the session, I am just writing up a random name. Okay, but never do it up in the on premises or in your live environment or whenever you're actually dealing with the actual real client. Okay, once I do it up, it says a lot of options, a lot of problems are there. I says that I cannot use the capital OF letter, and here I am. Okay, now it's asking me about region and the zones we talked about, right? Each region, guys, at least has three availability zone. Keep in mind that particular scenario. So region I would be sticking with North Virginia. Where is North Virginia? US East 4. So guys, remember North Virginia is that name of the region. US East 4 is the region code you have in place. Okay. So again, very important thing. For neither for the certificate, neither for your respective interviews, you does not need to memorize any one of it. Fine. To be very frank with you, I just remember only 3 to 4 regions only. That's it. Even if I spend a huge amount of time in working on these different kind of a cloud environment. It's absolutely normal. It doesn't make up a good or great sense that you start mucking up the different kind of regions with their respective region code. Absolutely not a great idea. Okay, so I'm sticking with North Virginia, which has a region code of US East 4. Fine, click into it. I have specified the region. So it means that this respective server that I'm going to deploy it up would be deployed in the North Virginia region. Okay, but in which availability zone? I have to specify the availability zone. See, A, B, or C. So I have three availability zone, A, B, or C. So now what I have set it up in this particular case, if this is your region, North Virginia, fine, and you have at least three availability zone inside it, one, two, and three, fine, and I have selected one availability zone, it means that the actual server would be deployed here. Fine. And let's say, for example, if you say, Amit, you know what, I am not comfortable with it, or some kind of a problem going on with this availability zone, right? Some problem is with it. What you need to do is that put it, can you please shift it or make a server in the another availability zone? So I would say what I will be deploying it up in the another availability zone. When I do it up, what happens in that particular case is that I have to change it to the B part. Fine. So I'm sticking with B. So in North Virginia, in zone B, this particular server is going to be deployed, guys. Fine. Okay. Then comes the machine configuration. Can we move the systems from one zone to another one in the same region? No, we cannot, shall we? As you can see, zone is permanent, region is permanent. You cannot. There are other ways, definitely for sure. What you can do is that you can create a copy. Okay, you can create up a duplicate copy, and then you can, what you can do is that, let's say, for example, this is also possible. A server is running it up in zone A. What you will do is that you can create up a copy of this exact server in zone B. So it means in availability zone A and availability zone B, two servers are there with exact same configuration and exact same data. But this would be the original one and this would be the duplicate. So there are different ways for doing that up, right? Okay, perfect. So then comes the machine configuration. Fine. So in this machine configuration, we are going to talk about hardware configuration, right? Okay. So remember it up, you have multiple different classes: general purpose, compute optimized, memory optimized, storage optimized, GPUs, as per your respective requirement. Let's say, for example, I want to build up a server which has good compute optimized. It can do a lot of complicated calculations. It has good amount of, I would say, CPU, a good amount of CPU in place. So I will be going into the compute optimized. Fine. In that particular case. So this is compute optimized, right? If I want the particular hardware configuration to have, much more of a CPU capacity. Memory optimized, let's say, for example, I want my particular hardware configuration to have very much of the RAM. Then you have storage optimized. If, let's say, for example, you want to have a much of storage, like 10 core of terabytes of storage, all this kind of stuff in place. And if, let's say, for example, for day-to-day job, you can go for the general purpose. And let's say, for example, nowadays you're going for the GPU, like video editing, playing games. And you click into the GPU and you see type, GPU type NVIDIA T4, number of GPUs, I would say 4, those kind of things. So I'm sticking with the general purpose at base. So as you can see, based upon your respective requirement, they have categorized the hardware configuration into compute optimized, where you get hardware configuration custom. Okay, here you click into the custom part. Let's say, for example, I want to build up how many, 16 core of CPU. Fine. And it should have how many, 49 GB of RAM. Okay, that would be definitely a stupid thing, and I will be getting about $405.80 of it. Okay, 0.56 cents hourly. Okay, that's the kind of thing. But yeah, that is the case. Fine. So you can customize it up. It's completely up to you. Right. I'm using the preset, already pre-configured one. Fine, which is in my particular case E2 family, low cost day-to-day computing. Fine, that's the case. So you scroll down and you get how much? One or two core of the CPU, fine, and 4 GB of RAM. So if you set the preset, means pre-configured. So it pre-configured is already there. Two medium, E2 medium is the one which I'm using it up, which has two core of CPU, right, and 4 GB of RAM. This kind of things you have in place. Okay, great. If you want to customize yourself, you click into customize and you're good to go. So remember, this machine type means what? Hardware configuration. I'm choosing up E2 family. Clear? Okay. That's what the machine type means. You scroll down and you have other options in place. We are keeping everything default right now. Here comes the boot disk. Okay. And here we choose up the operating system. You click on the change part, and here you have public image, custom image, snapshot, backup, and all that kind of stuff in place. You have this public image. Image means the operating system. Remember, image means operating system. I want to create up a Windows system. I click into it, I scroll down and I see a Windows server there. I click into it, and now it means that I am using up a very low end hardware configuration, and the operating system I am using it up is Windows Server. And it will be Windows, the version would be Windows Server 2022 data center. Fine. Okay. The capacity would be 50 GB of the hardware, that hard disk, virtual hard disk that will be created up. I click to select. As you can see now, boot disk, name 1, type New Balance persistent disk, size 50 GB, license PAYG, pay as you, it means how many, if I'm running it for 10 days, I pay only for 10 days. If I'm running it for 100 days, I pay it for 100 days. Simple as that. And images, Windows Server 2022 data centers. The cost I will be getting it up is $66 and 63 cents. And hourly, this much is the cost you're going to pay it for. Okay, scroll down and others API options we have in place. Now comes the firewall. So guys, can anyone go ahead and explain me what actually a firewall is? So in this particular case, that's what the firewall does. The firewall does the incoming and outgoing of the respective traffic in place. Okay, very good. Correct, right? Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm saying to the firewall, you know what? Allow okay, my bad. Allow HTTP traffic. In this case, you have load balancer part. We are skipping into it because it's a little bit advanced, I would say. Then you have another option which is HTTPS. So guys, what is this HTTPS? So in this particular firewall, we are going to use up HTTP. I know HTTP is not secure. Fine, the message you're sending it up is not encrypted, but because for the HTTPS guys, I need to have a certificate. I need to provide it up a certificate which I currently does not have. So for the simplicity of the session, I'm going to just use the allow HTTP traffic. Then what I'm going to do is that, okay, everything is works fine. There are other options as well. We are not going to that particular part. And you can see, right, another very interesting thing in the GCP part, whenever we are doing the configuration, you can see live right now what is the actual cost that you guys going to pay. So guys, how much on the left hand side, see how much is the particular cost that I will be paying it up when I deploy this particular server in North Virginia in the availability zone second. Guys, tell me, look into the left side of the screen. How much is the bill is there? Total bill on a monthly basis? Correct. $66, 63 US dollar, right? Okay, that's what we have. 63 cents we have in place. And on a monthly basis, it is telling me that if I run this particular server for entire month, this is the bill that will be at the end of the month. Okay. And another thing you have in place is that it has also break it down on hourly basis. On hourly basis, you have $0.09 in place. Okay, that's it. And it has broken down. It's not just randomly picking up a number and displaying it to you. For the simplicity and the transparency, it's so good. You can see it up. They have broken down it as well. See the item, 2 core of CPU and 4 GB of RAM. It has accumulated $27.55. Image, fine. It has $33. That's the image that Windows when we had on it place. Okay, let's talk about this as well. See, 50 GB of hard disk, we are right now using it up, which will be accumulating $5 of cost, right? And total would be $66. In this particular case, I would say there would be a little bit of a tax as well. Fine, that's the catch. So they have broken it down as well. So as per your respective convenience, what you will be doing is that you will be understanding it up, which suits you the best in place. Okay, make sure to fill all the correct options. Okay, what's the issue where I'm like lagging? Let me look into it. Required spot provisioning to terminate your VM on the host machine. Idle for workload, I would say it's idle for workload. Terminate the instant. No, I would not recommend that. Terminate the instance. Automatic restart. Okay, it's pretty straight. Idle for the fault on workload. Now it has increased it up. Issue instance required spot provisioning model to terminate your instance on the host maintenance. Okay, let's look into it. That's pretty strange. This kinds of errors, this firewall is fine, idle for most workloads. Fine, but set up a time limit for this particular workload. See, you can set up a time limit for this particular VM as well. That work how many hours and all these kind of things you can set it up here as well. Okay, great. Terminate this VM instance. I would say terminate this VM instance. Perfect. On host machine. Automatic restart off. Computer engine can automatically restart your VM instance if you terminate it. Okay. Why it is giving me an error? Let me just give me a minute and let me just go back to it. Refresh your stuff. It's normal, right? Sometime in the cloud environment, irrespective of the which kind of vendor you are in working in, you can face up an issues in place. Fine. Okay. Let's again create up an instance. Let's go back to it. Uh, let's go to, I would say, North Virginia. And in let's change up a little bit of configuration into it. I would like to name it one. Fine. In the general purpose part, it's a general purpose compute optimized, memory optimized in place. You scroll down and this is the one preset. Fine. Okay. And this is the custom one which we have learned it as well. Great. So we have standard part, and as we talk about that need to change the operating system, which is called actually that they have the respective name in place, which is called the image. Fine. Okay, you can customize your own image as well. You can have the public image. So because customized images also we're going to learn about. So we have this particular part, Windows Server, fine, same configuration, balance persistent disk. Okay, which kind of disk? Boot disk type means about that virtual hard disk. I would say a balanced one, or I would say SSD persistent disk would be good. Okay, the capacity of that hard disk which will be created for this particular server should be 50 GB. Select it up, Windows Server. Okay, now let's create it. And now it's been creating. Okay, so it's normal. Sometimes you can create up a problem, no problem with that. So see, we have to wait up a few minutes of a time until the time this particular VM virtual machine has been created. It's been created. Okay, great. uh this is it. Okay, and it's running fine. I would say, even if this is kind of from my respective experience that I've seen, is that even if you see right now a server has been working right now, but still give it at least 2 minutes. Nowadays, yesterday we talked about that, vendor login. We talked about one vendor login in place. Fine. So in that particular vendor login, what was the problem? The problem with the vendor login was that it was not allowing you your particular VM to be transferred or moved from one VM to another one. So let's say, for example, you have created up a particular VM in the AWS, it will not allow you to move to the GCP. But that was a problem way back in 2010 and 11. Nowadays, we are in the environment we are talking about multi-cloud. So definitely for sure, you can move this particular VM. As you can see, import the VM option is present there, right? I click on the import the VM. This is it. Okay, that's the case. So you can migrate your VM directly from your on-premises to the other cloud using Google Cloud to migrate. Fine, you can do that as well. Okay. So now we have this server in place. So this is the status. Okay, so this is a particular status in place. Fine. Okay, and this is the name of the server. This is a zone. US East 4. So what is that particular US East 4 one, guys? So it is US East 4. So US East 4 is what? It's the region code of North Virginia, and A signifies the availability zone. So this is how you read up the particular where actually physically your server has been deployed. So in United States, in a place North Virginia, in Google premises, there is a physical server present. There is a physical server present in place, right, which is running in the Google premises, where actually a VM with the name of one has been deployed. Fine. Okay, so as you can see that two things are being created in this here: public IP and private IP, right? Internal IP is your private IP you have in place, and external IP is your. That's the thing. And when we progress ahead, we talk about something which is called by the name of static IP. In that particular static IP part, I will be showing you that this particular IP, the public IP I'm talking about right now, external IP, it's dynamic. It changes it up. The problem with this particular IP is that if, let's say, for example, any kind of a cyber attack happens into it, or any kind of a problem going on in this particular region or the availability zone, or there is some maintenance, there is a patch management, something, some kind of an issue is there, and in that particular case we have to restart that particular VM or the instance. In that particular case, you will see that the VM IP changes, the external IP changes, and from the architectural point of view, it is a very problematic thing. Let's say, for example, your particular client on a daily basis go to this respective IP address. Fine. So one day you restart your VM and the IP, your external IP changes. So it will be very, very bad for your respective business. You want a constant, a static IP. That is the reason we have a something, a concept in the particular in the GCP, which is called by the name of static IP. We create a static IP, we attach that particular static IP with the VM, and then what happens is that even if I restart my VM, stop it, the still that particular static IP is attached to that particular server in place. Okay, it's not going anywhere. So the address remains the same, fine, even if your VM restarts, reboot, still there. Fine, that's a very great thing. So if let's say for example you does not want that kind of a scenario in place, we have a principle which is we have a service in place which is called by the name of static IP. And that particular static IP, you create the static IP. Let's say for example it's become 192.168.6.7 something like that, and you paste it, you attach it to the server. So now if the server is restart, it has stopped, it has paused, or something goes on with it, now still the IP is sticked with it. That is called the static IP. Okay, so now this is a normal scenario. There is no static IP. This external IP, guys, you are seeing it up. It's dynamic. If I restart this particular server, trust me, what will happen in that particular case? It will change. Fine. Okay, that's the catch. So let's restart it. Let me just wait a minute. Let me first of all stop it. Stop it. Right. As you can see it up, it's 34, 150. Fine. Let me just copy it up in this in the chart. Fine. Okay. This is that particular IP we have. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to stop it up. Okay. Yeah, stopping that particular. So it will take a time. Fine. So let's see. Again, very important thing, guys. As I mentioned to you, your external, your external IP or your public IP is dynamic by default in the GCP. What happened in this particular case is that let's say I restart my server and it again definitely for sure it will be providing me a external IP or a public IP. But remember, it doesn't mean that always it's going to be different. There can be a scenario where even if after I have rebooted this particular system and it's live and up and running, still I get up this particular IP 34.150.140.136. Okay, so it's not a rule that every single time you reboot your respective instance you get up a new IP. That's never the case. Okay, so VM instance has stopped. Perfect. As you can see it up in the status, it's paused. The instance has stopped, right? It's everything is fine. And as you can look into it, the external IP, it is completely gone. Fine. Okay. We need it back. I resume it. I restart this particular one. Okay. It will take a couple of minutes. Let's wait for that. Okay. The VM has started. As you can see it up in this particular case. Now let's see it. This one. Okay, and we can see it up. This is quite interesting that even if after I have restarted my particular IP or sorry restarted my particular server, still the both the time the IP that I have received it is exactly the same before restart and after it up. But remember, this particular incident was not going to happen, right? It's very, very dynamic. Okay, it's very random. So definitely for sure in this particular case we were lucky that before restarting the server the IP was 34, 150, 40, and 136. And after this particular restart, the IP remains the same. But that's not going to be always. It's not a surety. Fine. That's the reason we have something, a concept which is called by the name of static IP. Okay, great. So now we have the server in place, which is a Windows server, and definitely there is an RDP. So what I'm going to do is that, guys, I'm going to connect to it. Fine. So let's say, for example, connect to it, download the RDP file, third party, click into it, and wait a minute. This is the one you get it up. I click into connect. Fine. Okay. This is the one that I've been provided to. Username, you can change it as well. How to do that? You go to it. You go to this particular RDP, set get Windows password. Here, this is a username. Using this particular username, you will be able to log into your respective server in place. Fine. Okay. Let me keep it default. Fine. And okay. This is the username through which I will be logging into it using the RDP. and let's get the password as well. This is the password. So I just copy this particular password, go back to here in the RDP, paste that particular password, and I click into the OK. This is the pop-up that I get. Click into the yes part, accept it, and connecting to it. If everything done correctly, what happens in this particular case is that a VM has been deployed. Fine. Okay. Or I would say I'm connected to that particular server, Windows server. Okay, starting it up, it will take a minute, right? So the server, guys, we have created right now the Windows server with certain kind of a hardware configuration that is up and running. It will take a time, right? Because the hardware configuration we have choose it up, which is a very low end. So in that particular, it's because it was having only 2 core of CPU, right? And certain amount of RAM. That's the reason it will take a time for it to be up and running for the normal use in place. Okay, so that's the catch that why it is so slow. Okay, perfect. Let's give the server manager. Okay, perfect. So the server manager is there. Great. So this is, guys, this is your respective, I would say, server. Wait a minute, why it's getting up a problem? Let me just minimize it up. Perfect. So guys, this is that particular system we have in place right now. In your respective screen, guys, you are seeing a, I would say, a respective system through inside which the one, right, that one particular VM machine we have in place, which we created up in the GCP. Right now, I'm inside it. Okay, so and I can do a lot of things inside it. I can host up a web server. I can, I can do a plenty of things into it. Fine. So this is how it is. Can you show the way the server? Okay. Yeah, no problem with that. Let me just wait a minute till here. Any other doubt, guys? I'm going to do this particular practical once again, right? How I connected to it. No problem with that. In meantime, guys, any doubt, any question till here? All good? But remember, okay, I am not charged for it. The interesting part here is that I am not charged for it. Okay, because I have that particular credit limit of $300 for how many? For 60 days in place. But okay, but it is only, sorry, for 90 days, but it's after 90 days it will be invalid. So I created up a new account. That's the catch. Okay, I already have a two existing account for this complete session. Because for the simplicity I have created up a new account in place. Okay, that's the catch. Great. So just let me show you guys how to connect to it once again. I'm just closing it up. Your remote session would be disconnected. Okay, fine with that. I close it. Again, see, this is the particular server. It's up and running, fine, normal. As you can see, status, the status is running. Great. What I will do is that I click into it and I just say, wait a minute, where it was. Yeah. In this particular part, you just click into it. Yeah, download the RDP file. You click into it, and the RDP file has been downloaded. You click in this one, right? You download the RDP file, or you can directly go to in your Windows system RDP, and you can directly connect with that as well. No problem with that. Okay. You click into the connect part, and this is the one you get it up. Okay. Username and a password. I want the username and a password for it. Set the Windows password. I click into this part. Here, this is the username. I can change it if I want, but I want to keep it by default. I click this as a username to connect it. Okay, great. So guys, this is the password for my particular RDP. I copy it up. I close it. Yes, it's enabled there. Its monitoring is already by default enabled there, right? Okay, so I paste up the particulars, this thing. I click OK, and this is it. I click yes, and as you can see it up, it's connecting to it. And now again, I have make up a successful connection with my particular server once again. Fine, that's the catch here. Okay, guys, clear till here? Okay, practicals are still left. There are still topics left in place, like how to create up a static IP and all this kind of things. Tomorrow we're going to play with the static IP as well to make sure this particular external IP does not change no matter what the situation is. Fine. Okay. So guys, this was for today's session. Let's meet tomorrow. So till the time, guys. Bye. Take care.